KOKW calling. Come in.
Hello friends, welcome to the scariest damn place on YouTube. This is a second submission brought to you by a viewer who also wants to remain anonymous. And when I read this story, well, it gave me goosebumps. This story is quite compelling. And the story's name is My Father's First Wife Haunts Him. True story, brought to you by Anonymous. I am the middle child of 4 children. My oldest brother's mother was my father's first wife. My father was a mean old bastard. You would always find him at the local pub drinking until he can barely walk home. He was a mean, abusive bastard, and it was no secret that he hated his first wife. He would often be heard saying at the bar, "One day I'ma kill this bitch." Well, mysteriously, one day my oldest brother came home from school and found his mother hanging from a noose. My father was investigated for murder, but it was later on ruled that it was just suicide. But the whole family knew that it was more than that. Everybody knew that he killed her. After all, he'd be heard saying at the bar, "I'm gonna kill this bitch one day." See, my brother always knew that my father killed his mother, and he always held some sort of grudge against him. See, I'm the middle child, but this happened before I was born. My father was a mean old bastard, and when I was born, there was no running water or electricity. He often used to make me fetch water from a well, using a broomstick and 2 buckets on the sides. See, the funny thing about me being born is, my father seduced my mother, and my mother was a nun. After I was born, my mother shortly went insane, and lived the rest of her days in a insane asylum. See, by the time I was born, my brother was grown and he was fighting in the Vietnam War. I remember the first time I met my brother when he came home after the war was over. He was handsome, tall, and proud. And I would often hear him fighting with my dad, saying, "I know you killed my mother. One day you're gonna get yours." See, my father was a mean old bastard. He was very abusive. And he got with my youngest brother's mother, and she was also abusive towards me. I remember she used to get the stick and beat me until my ass would turn black and blue. God, I hated that woman, and man, did I hate my father. See, my brother's new wife, her name was Becky. One day my brother came home. He sat down and I was getting ready to go to bed. He sat down and he said, "Listen, little brother, don't worry, Becky's never gonna hurt you again. My mother's here and she's watching over you." I didn't know what that meant until the very next day. I remember this like it was yesterday. The next day, I came home from school and it was report card day, and my report card was full of mainly F's. I was scared shitless to walk in the front door because I knew if Becky would see my report card, I would get the beating of my life. As I walked in the front door, Becky rips the report card out of my hand. Her face snarls, and I knew it was about to go down. Becky looked at me and told me to go to my bedroom. She told me she was going to deal with me in a minute. As I'm going up the steps, I sit down on my bed and I'm looking at the vanity mirror I have in front of my bed. It's the only thing I have of my mother. After all, she's living in an insane asylum and she doesn't have much. See, it would often be said that my father would be seen with a ghostly apparition following him, or a second shadow. He knew that she was haunting him. You would often hear him come home from the bar. Before he would go to sleep, you would hear him scream, "Leave me alone, woman! You're supposed to be dead! Leave me the hell alone!" She would drive him insane. So I'm sitting on my bed awaiting my punishment from Becky. I hear something coming up the steps. I hear this tapping on the wall. I knew it was Becky, and she grabbed a switch from the tree in front of the yard. I could hear her laughing as if she was going to enjoy this. She opens up my door and she tells me to come here. I get up slowly and I pace towards her, knowing I was about to get the beating of my life. As I'm standing in front of her, I close my eyes, awaiting the punishment that I was about to receive. She raises her hand and she gets ready to hit me with the switch. Next thing I know, I hear her go, "What the hell?" I look over at her wrist and I can see a handprint tightly squeezing her pale, frail wrist. I knew right away it was my brother's mother. She was there to protect me. Tears started running down Becky's face. She dropped the switch and she took off running down to her room. You could hear her screaming, "Leave me alone! I promise I would never touch him again! Just leave me alone!" So I go and lay down on my bed, shocked, wondering what just happened. As I'm laying there, I can feel something move down by my feet. As I look, I can see an indent at the end of my bed as if somebody was sitting there. I couldn't see anything with my own eyes, so I turn and I look in my mother's vanity, and I could see this young, beautiful woman, glowing and glistening, with this big smile on her face. I knew right away it was my brother's mother, and she was my guardian angel. I never felt so loved in my life. Needless to say, Becky stopped beating me, and she moved out shortly after that incident. So I'm Jason Bortolis, aka Casper. Please like and subscribe. If you guys would like me to feature your stories in my next episode, please leave me a comment in the comment section below. Or you could email your story at x.casper266@gmail.com. Until next time, YouTube, I'm out. And I really hope you enjoy these stories. And if you're a murderous bastard, you never know. The person you murder just might come back and haunt you.
Of citizens, and because of the crisis which is even now developing, this radio station will remain on the air day and night. This station and hundreds of other radio and TV stations throughout this part of the country are pooling their resources through an emergency network hookup to keep you informed of all developments. At this hour, we repeat, these are the facts as we know them. There is an epidemic of mass murder being committed by a virtual army of unidentified assassins. The murders are taking place in villages, rural homes, and suburbs. A sudden general explosion of mass homicide. Civil defense officials in Cumberland have told newsmen that murder victims show evidence of having been partially devoured by their murderers. Reports from witnesses to the effect that people who acted as though they were in a kind of tent were killing and eating their victims prompted authorities to examine the bodies of some of the victims. Medical authorities in Cumberland have concluded that in all cases, the killers are eating the flesh of the people they murdered. Repeating this latest bulletin just received moments ago from Cumberland, Maryland, civil defense authorities have told newsmen that murder victims show evidence of having been partially devoured by their murderers. Medical examination of victims' bodies shows conclusively that killers are eating the flesh of the people they kill. Story becomes more ghastly with each report. It's difficult to imagine such a thing actually happening, but these are the reports we have been receiving and passing on to you. Reports which have been verified as completely as is possible in this confused situation. It is happening. It is happening. I think we have some late word on just arriving, and we'll interrupt to bring this to you. This is the latest disclosure, a report from National Civil Defense Headquarters in Washington. It has been established that persons who have recently died have been returning to life and committing acts of murder. Widespread investigation of reports from funeral homes, morgues, and hospitals has concluded that the unburied dead are coming back to life, seeking human victims. It's hard for us here to believe what we're reporting to you, but it does seem to be a fact. instructions and further details of this continuing story.